and welcome to the 84th session of Ask the Coach. And I've got three newbies. What am I doing? Why am I having three newbies on at the same time? I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym. I'll get the team of coaches to introduce themselves in a moment. Now, Alex, could you mute yourself just for a second?
Sorry,
conversations behind you, so that's really helpful. Thank you. So the way this works, we've got 6 questions, 3 from the coaches that they're getting asked all the time, 3 from our meetings, actually from the team event last week with all the sessions. We did 6 sessions there, so I picked some of the questions from there that people were asking. If you've got a question that you would like to ask, then please put that in the chat. If you are over on LinkedIn, stick it in the comments there. I'll be going backwards and forwards and having a look to see whether there's anything there as well that we need to do. Oh, and thank you, Sage. You're live streaming it at the same time as well. Brilliant. Love it. I might join yours instead of ours. Okay. So let's go to Lysha first then, because Lysha, you were here first this morning, bright and early, ready to go, because tech isn't necessarily your favourite topic. So give us a short intro and tell people what you are brilliant at.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me, and it's been an absolute honour to be part of this. I have been in the recruitment industry for nearly 26 years, and I've had the joy of being a rec to rec for the majority of that since 2002. I launched my own business, Key Recruitment, in 2005, so we're 19 years this year, and I host a podcast, the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast, and I'm an executive coach as well, and I can't wait to get stuck into some of these questions. It was actually quite hard to choose the one that I get asked the most, but I think that it's one that everyone's going to have an opinion on. It's not going anywhere, this question.
That's always the thing, isn't it? There's some things that it doesn't matter how long you're in recruitment, they're just always there. And we forget sometimes. There's so many new people joining our industry all the time. They don't know the answers. We think, no, you know that? And it's like, no, that's what Ask the Coach is here for as well, to make sure that we get that knowledge out there. People that have been there for a long time are able to share that. So, Si, let's come to you next. If you can give your short intro, please.
Yeah, hi, thanks very much for having me on. My name's Si. I'm the founder of Embedded Ops. It's a business operations consultancy working with recruitment agencies of varying different sizes. My background is I was a recruiter for very many years and became the de facto ops manager because I knew how to use Excel, really enjoyed it, and slowly but surely worked my way up. Most recently, I was COO of a hedge fund recruitment business. I love all things ops, but at my core, I'm a salesperson and a recruiter. So yeah, really looking forward to today.
Can definitely vouch for that. And that made me giggle because, yeah, the person that could use Excel was always the one that, project manager, you know how to use Excel. No, basic skill. Alex, we're coming to you. Let us know where you are as well.
No, I can unmute now. Yeah, no. Thanks for having me on. No, it's really good to be with all you guys. I'm not quite the podcast pro like Lysha, but she's been doing a little while longer. So I'm Alex Bennison. I've essentially run a business called The Scoop for the last 4 or 5 years. Last year, I launched a product called Rec Mapper. And I've got another product coming in about a month, which is a kind of AI and automation tool that I can't speak too much about. Saeed knows what's coming. But yeah, I've got a new product. So my background, I was a recruiter at agency side for 8 years. Like Lysha, I stepped into, I was a rec to rec for probably about 5 years. And then for the last 5-6 years, I've run a number of different tech products where I've started to embrace using AI and automation as part of that to kind of build things.
Yeah, must admit, Rec Mapper, when I saw it, so this is literally mapping all of the recruitment agencies all over the world, pretty much, isn't it? But obviously we focus mostly on the UK to start with, but it's just fabulous to be able to go in and get all of that data. So all of the links are in the chat. If you're on LinkedIn, go to the details tab and you can connect directly there as well with our coaches today. Right, let's get started then. So Lysha, I'm coming to you first. This is the hybrid versus office. And you're right, it's been around it's been around sort of 10 years or so where we've been challenging it. It got kickstart 4 years ago. So what's going on now? Tell us all about it.
It did. I mean, just a quick evolution. I started my business because I needed to have the flexibility as a working parent. And I think that's traditionally how people have seen the hybrid solution to those that have got maybe, caring responsibilities. But obviously then when COVID happened, we all know it kind of transformed a lot of things in the recruitment industry, I think, for the better. Inevitably, when everything returned to normal, a lot of businesses were like, what do we do? Do we invite people back into the office? And I think where we're at now is that a lot of companies are making it mandatory. So they're mandating you're back in the office full time. And there are people that are working in those businesses who, prior to COVID, have enjoyed a little bit more autonomy, working from home, having a bit more of harmony in their life. So I think the reality is that I think if you were to go and speak to 10 different recruitment agency owners, they would have 10 different answers for you as to what's working well in their business. And the reason I wanted to sort of broach it in the topic today is because I think ultimately, there are probably 3 or 4 things that every recruitment leader should really think about, and recruiters too, when it comes to what is right for your individual business. I think first and foremost is to look around the room and see what the people in the business actually need. What is the dilemma? Is it that people are enjoying working from home? Are they as productive as they have been? And what's the connectivity like for them if they are spending some of their week working from home? A lot of recruiters don't understand things like the cost of the office, the commerciality. There's people, that are probably a little bit delusionary about that. The fact is rents, rates, utilities, cost of running a business have gone through the roof over the recent years for business owners. And so the relative, let's bring everybody back in, has been a big driver that maybe isn't communicated to the employees. I think for me, where I sit on this, and I'm very interested to know what Si and Alex and yourself think about this, is that if I'd have been a hybrid or even remote recruiter in my early career, I would never have been successful. And that's because of what we call the osmosis effect. My early years of sitting next to the high billers, the experienced billers, the billing managers, those that were doing business development, even if you're not sat in a classroom environment being trained and developed, you are listening to their nuances, how they handle objections. And I think that will always be why there's a firm argument for recruiters being in an office for most of the week, because that's where the osmosis effect happens. It does not happen when you're working from home. It is as simple as that. It really doesn't. Even on, if you're on video calls, webinars, going on Slack, that kind of thing, you just don't pick up on what they'd said over there. That was brilliant what you just said. I want to and I'm very conscious that, we have time limits on these answers. So I think for me, when I'm advising my clients, I think anchor days are really useful. I think where people often get it wrong on hybrid is where you say, well, people come and go, or you can come in on these days if you want, and it just gets missed then. So you've got someone turning up for a meeting on a Tuesday to find that half the team aren't there. It's pointless. So I think anchor days are really essential. Those are the days that everyone should be there. That's when you can have your team get-togethers, talking about discussing clients, and ensuring that people are getting the maximum benefit of being together and sharing that information. So I think it's important for leaders to think about how they can make that work for them. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. There's always going to be people that maybe do need a bit more flexibility if you're mandating back in the office full time. But I think above and beyond, the most important thing is that communication piece. Going back to the start of my answer, that if you're not communicating it effectively from the start, that's where people start to get really pissed off, or where leaders start to think, well, you're not pulling your weight, so you need to come back in the office. So communication's key. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that, you're not doing this, so you've got to come back in the office. All of a sudden, it's a punishment, isn't it? And you're right. I don't know about osmosis and sort of listening. I nicked all the good questions. Whenever I heard senior consultants, I was like, oh, that's a good question. Right, write it down. I'm having that one. So what's your thoughts on this?
I 100% agree. I just don't think I'd be where I am now if I hadn't been working next to some of the people I've done in the past. My first job in recruitment, I sat like 6 meters away from a chap called Barry Costa, who runs his own recruitment agency right now. He tells everybody he taught me everything I know now. But I actually did learn so much from him. He was such a salesperson. His relationship building was great. So I think it's great. I think the anchor days, like having the fixed days in, is so important. I recently worked at a place where there were no fixed days, and you just didn't, some days there were 2 people in the office, some days there were 6. It was just no atmosphere, no culture. And the piece around, do they like working from home, but also do they like working in your office? Is your office space nice? Is it is it actually worthwhile coming in? Do you put the heating on? All that sort of stuff does also come into it. But no, anchor days, hybrid working, it works, but can't just be going from one end to the other. I think the change in the middle and the comms piece, like you say, very key.
I like the fact we've got a word for it now, anchor days, and have a structure within those. It might just be one thing, that there's an hour where there's collaboration and it's actually sort of organized, so everyone knows that they're going to get something really good out of coming back to that day. So love it. Okay, well, we know it's here to stay then. We just need to make sure we've got a strategy around it, and ask your people, please. They might all love being in the office all the time. There you go. If you don't know. So I'm going to stick with you. Let's take that question off and let's go to the second one. Right. So you're getting asked all the time, how is my database CRM usage? So what's this all about?
Yeah, I think people have just become a little bit wiser over the last year or so with the downturn in market, not maybe wanting to spend loads of money on data, on job board renewals to get more data, or your contact outs and your Lysha and your scrapers. Everything's become so much more expensive. People are a bit more aware of the fact that, well, I've got this database, and back in the day we used to go to market with, my database has 100,000 candidates on it, and so on and so forth. So I think I'm a firm believer that your database and your skill on the phone are your two main competitive edges against your competition. They don't have access to the candidates in your database. They don't know how you qualify candidates, how you pitch candidates, how you pitch for BD, and so on and so forth. So for me, I think a CRM is a huge part of it. And the fact that people are asking about how's my database, what's my CRM usage like, is a positive thing in my mind. And it's just coming up more and more. Some of the things that we've been talking to folks about is just some really quick searches that they can do. So get the total number of candidates on your database, and then maybe run a search of total number of candidates in your database with a call note in the last 12 months, because that's probably more realistic number of who's actually engaged with your brand from a candidate perspective. I wrote a few others that are worthwhile noting off, like the basics. Are your candidates coded? Are your managers coded? Contact details. I love tech and I love the integrations that exist out there, but LinkedIn integrations into CRMs are just the worst. You just got job title, name, and a URL and nothing else. And more often than not, you don't even know if that person has been messaged by the consultant. Another clean up one that people are doing at the moment is open interviews. No one likes to close down interviews. Went to an agency the other day that has 700 second interviews going on, and it's a 6-person firm, and there's not 700 interviews going on. So little things like that you could look at to just clean up your database to get a real picture of how good is my competitive edge, how valuable is it. The last point on that is, going on from the total number of candidates with notes in the last 12 months, I really like to see when notes have various types so that you can easily access the data. So if you do have a big database and people are making loads of call notes, how are your note types defined so that you can then go back and go, oh yeah, I want to go find all of the compensation calls. Maybe you have a specific call with candidates about their comp, and you want to put that as a note type. So, and if folks don't have that, it's so easy to shift into it. You can define it, agree it, roll it out, and then all of a sudden the data people are capturing just becomes better. But lovely to hear people are interested in getting more out of their databases. It's great. It keeps me in a job as well. So good.
One of the key things that I always try and get people to add is 5 marketable qualities on every candidate. So that would be a great thing to search. Okay, we've got a database of 100,000. How many have got 5 marketable qualities? Because that means I've spoken to them, I've understood them, I know what's good about them, I can sell them. And I'll bet that's not a big number compared to that 100,000. Alex, I'm sure you want to weigh in on this.
Yeah, I think it ties in partly to the sort of question that I'm going to be answering, but I think the main bit that Saeed mentioned about coding up your CRM system, I just don't think it happens enough, and it's partly aligning the recruiter's understanding of why that needs to be done with the founders of the business as well, right? So it's very difficult for a new person to come into a company and just look through trawls of notes of conversations between contacts, right? If you know a company hires certain people within a vertical market, then it's just a lot easier for anyone else to come in and start utilizing that. But I think trying to make it work so people aren't just doing the core basics just to kind of do it as a KPI and actually understand how it can benefit them in the long run.
Yeah, because then you can set yourself a target around it, can't you? And have a key performance indicator and say, okay, what percentage of the database do we want to make sure that we've got that relationship with, whether it's the last year. I thought you were going to say a month, Si, because it's like, who have we contacted and had a conversation with in the last month? That's what I would want to know. A year is quite a long time frame, but you can choose any time frame and have that and see the difference. So definitely, what are you using it for? And I'm sitting here thinking, because I use Active Campaign, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I've got work to do on mine as well. So we probably can all put our hands up and say that we can always be better with our database and CRM usage. And it does make a huge difference when you can do a search, you find the right candidate, you can call them up, they're active, they're ready, and you can put them forward all within 20 minutes. Oh, how wonderful is that? That's the good old days that we used to do. Brilliant. All right. Well, you're making my life easy for me because, so Alex, you're staying on, and we're going to lead on to like you said, a question that's relevant to it. So how can recruiters utilize both tech automation to enhance their BD efforts without losing the quality of their outreach? Yes, I got a message this morning saying, dear, open brackets, name. And I was like, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think I got one the other day which said the temperature in Warwick is 35 degrees. And I was like, what a random AI prompt to check into an email there. But it didn't work. And they were an AI tool as well, funny enough. But
it's nuts.
Yeah, I think
it wasn't 35 degrees.
No, it definitely wasn't. Yeah. I think it's got to start from the top up rather than just expecting the recruiters to just know what to do. Right, the founders of the business need to believe in it. And I kind of did a post about it today, actually, just talking about the fact that I feel as there's a kind of rapid rise of AI and automation, people need to do one of two things: either A, hire someone in the business that's focused on tech and data, that can help roll that out across the wider company, or train your staff to just be more proficient in the use of AI and automation and actually putting some time aside to make sure you learn how to use things. As everyone knows, the adoption of tech is so crucial for making it work, right? So if you don't train people and put the time into it, it just won't work. Whilst I appreciate Job Ad as the sponsor here, but just little things from a basics point of view is tools like Source Whale that can just help improve efficiencies, make sure that you're managing your scheduling, like cadence scheduling, doing effective like follow-up messages and stuff like that without having to take the time of trawling through messages or add follow-up tasks, even just using the basics. But I feel like the biggest thing is using data to actually improve personalization. So I feel like in terms of using tech and automation, everyone gets the term AI banded around, but they don't realize that actually like AI really should be a mix of automation, web scraping, and then AI to be based on those prompts on. Everyone kind of goes on ChatGPT, write me a job spec, and then the output is rubbish. So they think that is the end result, but actually it's only just scratching the surface. So part of using automation and web scraping then kind of ties into what Saeed was saying around like tagging up your companies correctly in your CRM. So you can just pull up a list of people that hire certain type of candidates in market verticals and just map out your target market that way. I feel like it's just about using data to really drive efficiency.
Well, I must admit, it seems to be every week at the moment that I'm coming across something that's helping and making my life so much easier. And you're right, it's about the personalization that goes with it. So I'm just going to put Opus into the thing. I've picked up Opus Clip. It's picked up Opus Pro when I've actually asked for it. But this is... you talked about BD outreach and using information. So this was something that Andy from Team shared with me. So I get a lot of 45-minute videos like this, and they go on YouTube and they go on Facebook and they're on LinkedIn Live and they go into the course. So there's 85 sessions in the course. Click on the green button if you're in here, if you want to go back and listen to other people's answers on questions. But Opus Clip for free took the 45 minutes, created 20 short clips from 45 seconds to 3 minutes. So from a BD outreach point, being able to put those out to social media, whether onto YouTube Shorts or everything, and I would spend ages clipping bits from different webinars, and it did the transcript for me as well, gave me a fabulous title. I'm thinking, yes, thank you, AI. There is some really good stuff out there that's starting to come through that's making a difference. And actually, I probably will pay for it because I think it was about 30 quid a month, something like that. So definitely worth it from there. Have you heard of that one, Alex?
Sorry, I was muting there. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've seen it. It's just the ability to clip up. I haven't seen the end result because I don't run podcasts, but I mean, in theory, it all looks pretty decent in terms of how much time it can save you, even if you have to do a little bit of editing thereafter. But yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, from my point, it was just 20 clips, scoring them out of 100. So started with 99 out of 100 for the first one, and then it went down to about 74, I think. So it's also telling you 4 different areas as to whether it's engaging, whether it's got a good opening, whether it's of the moment, and is it a thing that people are talking about, whether there's good information in there. And I'm thinking, yeah, all in a matter of seconds. And you think, wow.
I feel like it's the kind of point on, using AI, it should be far beyond just trying to pick out someone's location, title, and name. You should really be scraping websites to understand what the business actually do and creating personalization points based on the data that you've got on either the individual or the company itself, and trying to improve your personalization in that way rather than just getting caught out looking like you're just putting in job titles and names as merge tags.
Yeah. There's no need for it anymore, is it? I've actually found it because I had it open anyway. So let me just show you what it's offering, because this is an interactive webinar. So here, so my first one, flexible working out, your right to work. So 99 out of 100, there you go. The hook, the flow, the engagement, and the trend. So that then created a 1-minute video, and then you've got all of these, and the titles were great as well. They really grabbed me, that I would be interested in. So there you go. Look, 20 of those. I love it, love it, love it, love it. So let's do more of that and utilize it. And certainly for people that are advocating like you, that it's not just about those basics, about personalization and making sure that we're using it in that way that it can make the difference. Thank you for the shout out for Job Adder as well, usually halfway through. So that was question 3. We then give Job Adder a shout. Our sponsors on here, they also sponsor our Meet the Expert that we had this week. That's once a month. We had John Brooks on the value of recruitment. So we definitely need some of that going around as well at the moment to make sure that's all happening. Wonderful. Okay, let's head off to question 4. So Lysha, I'm coming back to you. How can agencies attract new hires? I mean, again, this is a question that's been around forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one that every single agency, even if you're not currently in hiring mode, you should still be asking yourself this question. So first and foremost, you need to look around and assess your current people. At the heart of what you do from here on in, it should be all about diversity and inclusion and the sense of belonging for your current people. It should never be about compromising those people that you want to actually retain. Because I think if I think about where our industry is synonymous, it's about this horrific attrition level. And I think that recruitment owners have to take responsibility for the fact that very often we tend to hire on a whim. There's no strategy to it. It's just, oh, well, the market's busy again, let's just take somebody on. And I think that we have to take responsibility and accountability for the fact that we, as an industry ourselves, we have to put a magnifying glass on the current people that we have, the ones that are doing well, the ones that, add some neurodiversity, add some, different life skills, come from different markets and not just from certain backgrounds, core backgrounds. So I think that has to be the starting point before you can decide and evaluate what your best strategy is to actually attract new hires. And this is a continuum. There's got to be a sense of Kaizen about it. There has to be continuous improvement in how you hire. Just because you managed to get loads of people in 2022 doesn't mean you're going to hire great people now, because the market changes. There's always different nuances and different considerations. Our industry is always going to be how many of us here, I actually don't know, have fell into our industry. For example, I certainly am. I can probably count on one hand out of 100 people that will interview that actually chose our industry. And I, for one, and I'm hoping that's one of the reasons you've asked me on here today, I shout it from the rooftops that we should be attracting people that want to join our industry. And, when we're thinking about attracting new talent, it is about those that are, maybe sat in school now, university now, maybe sat in other careers, that look into our industry and will see, why should I come and work in a what we all know is a meritocratic, unbelievable, career-driven industry. But if we can't answer that for ourselves right now with where we're at as a recruitment business, you're never going to attract and then retain the best people. So I think that has to happen first. So whether that's through, bringing an external coach or an external consultant in to actually interview your current people, whether you just, have somebody in the business that does that independently, to their current role, I think it's really important. What would they change? You should always have a health check within your business anyway, with reviews and one-to-ones. I think it's really important and I think we're coming on to this question next in a way, is to audit where you are commercially when it comes to commission benefits and how you remunerate your recruiters and all of your staff, actually, your support staff as well. Because if you are then presented or somebody approaches your business to work for you, do you actually know? The amount of times, it's really quite funny actually, that I'll be meeting a new client and they'll say, yeah, we think our commission structure is really good, and I'm like, wait, go on, what is it? And I'm like, sort of going, and I'm really underwhelmed, and my face don't lie, and I'm like, actually, that's not great. Or if they then get a calculator, I'm like, you've lost me already. If I have to calculate what my commission's going to be, so I think it's auditing what that looks like, and understanding what good looks like. And again, that can be from your current people. There are plenty of people out there that can audit for you, and then ensuring that your benefits really are benefits. We're not talking, pool tables and free fruit. We're talking, maternity, paternity, paternity, for those who have pets, we're talking well-being. These are the things. Paternity.
Paternity. Yeah. I love that.
I know. So we'll see the real things. And the thing is, I don't know how many of you here are parents. I mean, I've got a 19 and 17-year-old, and I think it's so important that even if you are, as a business, maybe you employ people who are maybe more experienced in life, at some point you're going to need to attract and retain and hire Generation Z and Generation Alpha. And actually those wellbeing benefits are going to be really critical. We talked earlier on around hybrid and flexibility. These things are really important to the new generation coming through. They are going to be very fascinated by your tech. I think the AI and tech piece, that's almost like a prerequisite now. It's a given. But don't underestimate the value of your broader benefits. Pensions, financial health, these are the things that companies will stand out at interview because they're actually offering mortgage advice, pension advice. These things might not cost you an awful lot, but actually will go a long way. Decision-making process. Oh my goodness. I mean, I've been a rectorate now for 22 years, and there is not one decision-making process that matches another decision-making process. So similar to my answer to my earlier question around the hybrid, remote, full-time office question, there is no one size fits all, but you have to have a decision-making process and be clear in setting expectations as to what each process is, what you're trying to get from it as the employer, but is that being communicated to your potential employees? Don't trick them. It has to be fair, it has to be equitable. Again, going back to the diversity and inclusion, it has to be, we have to ensure that we are being truly inclusive in how we're measuring people, and understanding things around, video calls, accessibility for those who have disability issues or neurodiverse considerations. And I think you have to also go back to, why you're hiring in the first place. So we talk around EVP, but what is this person going to bring? I mean, Alex knows my business model pretty well, and I mean, Angela, you and I getting to know each other's side, doesn't it? I mean, and anyone in the audience, I am very different in how I operate. I reverse the search. I actually wrap up a candidate and go to market with a candidate. Yeah. And so for me, when I'm sort of mirroring that to my clients and encouraging them to do a similar thing, we know exactly why they're going to hire that person. They're creating something for that person, and I don't think that's a dangerous thing for anyone to stop and think about actually doing them. If they are, we've got a gap, we know we need to hire this person, stop thinking about what we need as a business and think about what does that potential individual, why do they want to come and join our business? And I think reframing that mindset slightly to why does that person want to come and work here means that the whole decision-making process, the whole engagement piece, and then thinking about onboarding that person and training and developing that person, regardless of their experience, will feel so personalized and will just be so memorable for them and will create such a strong sense of loyalty. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want lower attrition, going back to my earlier point. So I don't think there's a magic pill or a magic wand we can wave to create, getting you the best person every single time, but at least it will encourage anybody that you potentially interview to hire for your business, that they will walk away knowing that they've had a great experience every single time.
Well, that's the thing as well, isn't it? Your branding will help you to generate people coming to you. And once people, an employer of choice, people start talking about you. The one, when I saw that question, I thought back to, well, how did I find my people? And it was always through my candidates, because I didn't recruit people that were in recruitment. I love training, obviously. So as a manager, I was happy to train them up. That wasn't an issue. So my team of 10, 11 people were always thinking, whoever they interviewed, didn't matter what they did, would they be good as a recruitment consultant? Have they got the abilities? So I would always be getting information and details, and then I'd get to check them out. And even if we didn't have a job at the time, we'd still interview them as something, because they probably wouldn't have considered it as a career, and it might be 6 months or a year before they go, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And therefore you've always got a list of people that are potential hires that you've spotted because you could see that potential in them. And that's what I love as well, is that generating an opportunity for someone.
Going back to what Alex said earlier on around AI and tech, I mean, and this isn't an ageism thing, but there possibly is an element of that. I know that I've not got, that's not my skill set, understanding technology. It's never going to be. I try and teach myself things. I try and elevate my learning, but I know it's actually probably going to be bringing in younger people, and that's where they're gonna, they've grown up on a diet of TikTok. There is not a Gen Z out there that has not grown up with one of these in their hands. So I think it's encouraging recruitment business owners and leaders to think about what other skills younger people will have. I've not even talked about, and I don't know if we'll have time to do this, but maybe we need to have another session on this, that the new generation are possibly not as confident as picking up the phone as our generation would be, because that's not how they communicate. They communicate through Snapchat, they communicate on social, they send it's all through video. It's that instant gratification, and we have to think about that as an industry right now. Otherwise, in 10 years' time, there ain't going to be any new blood coming through if we're not embracing these people now, encouraging them to do what they need to do if that's how they do their business. And I also just want to make a point really quickly as well, that we need to get off this whole graduate, you're a graduate and you get into recruitment. If anyone can afford to go to university these days and see the benefit of putting themselves in all that debt to then go and do a job in recruitment, I would much rather take on someone that's, worked in a local shop, gone and worked in an estate agent, had a vintage shop, whatever. I just want us all to just stop. We need to turn that part of our brain off as an industry.
I thought we'd got past that, to be honest. So
we haven't.
No.
I was just gonna say that there was a time when I was like divisional managing and stuff, and there's an agency I worked at, and it was like the Rectorex would send us CVs, and like the 3 bullet points would be 2-1 red bricks, sports person, all this sort of stuff, and it was like. And that was so like, I don't know why it was such a stereotype. I was like, why you think that you're just going to spec a CV and say that they've got a 2-1 from Red Brick and they played a bit of sports and they're going to get a job in recruitment? How many of those sports people actually made it past like promotions and probations and so on and so forth? I don't know. I actually really like, I'm seeing a really nice, there's a few owners I'm working with at the moment that really want to just interview the person. So there are just some prerequisites, right? We some of the agencies I work with just want to have someone that's got some office experience. Like they've just had a job. They don't care what they've done. They could have just been making teas in their mum's office. They just want to know that they know their way around Outlook and an office and etiquette and all that sort of stuff. And it's great. And then they interview the person. Like I think recruitment is problem solving and rapport building. We want social people. We have to deal with people all day long. So I think there's been a really nice shift in that happening. Diversity brings diversity. So someone has to make the change first, and then eventually you do end up attracting a more diverse pool. But yeah, that's really good points you made there.
Thank you. No.
Well, I do also want to highlight, you started off with saying how many people actually fall into it, and we probably all have here. I do a series called My Life in Recruitment, and that's one of the questions. How did you get into it? I think I've done about 25 so far. Only one person, which was Hung Lee, has actually targeted recruitment, and that's what he wanted to do. The rest of us all fell into it. And a shout out, I'll put the link in there for you to sign up, that Lysha will be one of my guests on my panel doing My Life in Recruitment at the the Recruitment Agency Expo at Birmingham at the NEC. That's what I was trying to say. Right.
We knew what you're trying to say. Can't wait to meet you all there in October, isn't it?
It is. It looks like it's going to be October the 9th around lunchtime, but the agenda's not finalised yet, so I can't quite say that. Right. Okay. Let's take that question off. We're done with that one. Lots of ideas there. So on to 5. How important is it to either ask for the candidate's current salary or not ask for the candidate's current salary? Right. What's going on here?
It's an interesting one. I assume this was obviously candidates that we're recruiting for and so on and so forth. So I would say that it's absolutely essential unless the law doesn't allow you to do so. Some of my clients recruit in certain states in the US where you can't actually ask it, but I think
a few states now have banned it. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have a discussion on this then. So
I think there are some workarounds. I think there are ways of asking it without asking it, right? I think there's ways to ask it without asking it is what I'm hearing. But specifically on this one, I mean, for me personally, I think there isn't an exact science behind someone's salary and their experience level and so on and so forth. I think back in the day, that was generally it. It was like, oh, they earn this, they must be good, or they earn this and they're at this level. I think that science is there's no science there. So ultimately, you need to ask the question more so for me, because it is twofold. For me, it's how good is my relationship with the candidate and commitment testing to a certain extent. And then the other side of it is we work in recruitment to have offers accepted. So I have some clients that talk about, we've got this many offers. It's like, offers don't turn into money. So offers accepted is more important than offers, but yes, it is a leading indicator to the offers being accepted. So if we are going to manage a successful process and eventually get an offer from a client that's going to be of a palatable nature to the candidate, and the candidate is going to want to accept it, we kind of need to know those numbers. And I think it's just talking around money and understanding, what they do with their lives, personal, all that sort of stuff. Building a relationship with the person, understanding their lifestyle, what they do, how many kids they have, where they live. I think all of that stuff just helps with building a relationship and being able to have a nice, transparent process where there are no hidden agendas. I mean, most candidates know when a recruiter is calling them that they're going to try and place them to earn a commission check, right? I think everyone knows that now. Everyone knows what recruitment is. So for me, I think, yes, you do need to know the salary. I think it's a way to control the process, make sure both sides, all parties, 3 parties, the recruiter, the client, the candidate, are all on the same page, not wasting anyone's time. The candidate's piece is like interviewing and understanding salary and what could be acceptable and all that sort of stuff. It's good to hear the justification for it. I love hearing it. I know there's a lot of folks that say, why do they need to justify what their salary ask is? Maybe I just have that embedded in me from when I started. But
I think you're right there. Justifying their salary ask. What do they want? And making sure they can back that up. Yeah, Lysha, what were you going to say there?
I mean, in my job, nobody has any problem telling me what the salary is. Recruiters just love to talk about money. So I realise Rec to Rec's just a very small part of what we're talking about here, but as a bigger subject, and I think we should take a step back from this question, and instead of maybe necessarily focusing on what a candidate's current salary is, it's looking at what the client's salary structure is, because we want to ensure parity. Because I think if we're thinking going back to the attrition and retention of staff, I want to work for a business that looks after its employees, that is not going to, usurp my current salary where I've been a loyal employee just because they're bringing somebody in that is saying that they want 10 grand more. So I think recruiters have a responsibility to manage expectations, but actually it should be through understanding what the employer can afford, and how they value this role and this person rather than necessarily what someone's got on their pay packet. Because, I mean, we see it all the time. There's still such a disparity across every industry, particularly, you know, if I'm shouting for, you know, women's equitability here as well, we're never going to bridge that gap. I think we're about 75 years behind at the moment. So the only way we can do that is by reframing how we as recruiters have a responsibility to say, actually, the onus is on the client and the employer and what they will pay rather than what you're currently earning, in my opinion.
This is a great discussion, because initially, say, I was on your side. I always challenged the salary, always asked the salary. Then I got to know Joe Major and Joe Phillips, and they convinced me that, it's actually 153 years. So 1970.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
No, well, that's it. They
even
did
longer.
It
That's even worse.
Exactly. So 1970, Equal Pay Act came in. 54 years later, we're still 153 years behind. So it's something like October 18th, isn't it? The women, if they're doing the same job to the men, women get paid to October the 13th, men get paid for the whole year. So we're doing like a month and a half that we're not getting paid that salary because of the increase that they've got. So it has convinced me that asking for the candidate salary and what they're on at the moment may not be relevant. But this is where your nous as market intelligence should kick in, isn't it? And you're right, it's about what the client can afford, and is that going to be right for that candidate? So trying to make it future rather than past. And you're still right though, so they have to justify it, so they've got to come up with the reasons why they deserve that salary, and I've got no issue with that at all. So have that discussion and really dig down on the competency level and the abilities, but let's not get hooked up on what they're earning at the moment, because and again, I was in the same company for 13 years and I didn't get near the end, I didn't get many pay rises, and when I handed my notice in, they, on the exit interview, offered to double my salary. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, where's all that coming from?
Where's that money come from?
Underpaying me all this time.
It's worth noting, though, that like if you were to ask a candidate their salary and they said that they were on 40 grand and the role that you're recruiting for is paying 60 grand, and that's going to be a 20 grand increase. If you, as the market specialist recruiter, know what that skill set should command, and you know actually what the role they're doing now should actually be paying more, you added such value to that candidate by them telling you that they're on 40 grand. You're able to say to them, just so you know, your skill set, your experience, what your achievements are, you're extremely undervalued here. So actually knowing that salary allows you to inform and advise and actually probably open their eyes a little bit more to the fact that they are undervalued, because they may not know at all. And that's not to say that you would then go to the client and say, we've got someone at 40 grand, I reckon we'll get them at 45. You know, that's not the conversation that needs to happen. Actually, the conversation is they're extremely undervalued here. So I reckon the chance of them leaving and not accepting a counter offer is very high. So actually,
that's the key as well, isn't it? Yeah. So there is a petition to make salary history. I'll get the hashtag and put the link in there while I can. But I'm aware we need to get Alex on for the last question. So, and then we've been pretty good on time, everyone. So Alex, we were meant to be focused. There we go. What mistakes do people make when using AI to assist their BD efforts? So we touched a little bit earlier, but give us some more specifics on this.
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned around training of staff, right? I think like the lack of training is one of the biggest mistakes that you can make, because that just affects the output at the end of it. The ex-head of AI for Google said something along the lines of like, AI won't replace you, but someone using AI will. And I feel like if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you need to kind of adopt and embrace the changes that are just undoubtedly going to be coming into place, right? You need to stay ahead of the competition if you can. So it's about embracing that, training your staff up, or at least having someone in the business that can have that core focus. I feel like one of the biggest mistakes that you can make by using products that have AI built into them is trying to increase volume without necessarily increasing quality. So when that comes into a place saying, but we're getting out 1,000 messages instead of 100, it's like, well, if the quality of those messages, that also affects the company brand and the messaging that goes out on behalf of your business through the recruiter's messaging. So it's about trying to ensure that this kind of ties into what I was saying about AI isn't just AI, it's automation, it's web scraping, it's data, and then basing all of the AI based on that. So it's you hear all the time about AI is all about prompts, but those prompts should be based on data ultimately. So it's about making sure that you're collecting the right level of data to improve quality of messaging, and then in turn increase volume through your outreach that way. So.
Yeah, so it was back to sort of the 100,000 on the database, similar scenario. Whenever people used to say that's one of our features, we've got 100,000, I'm like, that's really not, because if there's no data in there and it's all rubbish, that's actually a milestone around your neck rather than really helping you. So it's the quality of stuff that can make a difference. So from your point of view, then, I'm a new recruiter and I don't know much about AI, let's say. So what would you suggest might be their first sort of stopping points or things that they can do?
I think sometimes the problem is you've only got so much time in the day, right? And ultimately the founders of the business want people to do revenue generating activity. But I mean, I can't try and even describe how much I've learned from things like YouTube. Honestly, like if you hear of a product, type it onto YouTube, you'll undoubtedly find a video of someone using that product, and you can kind of understand. Or the other element is just be inquisitive, right? You know, put a little bit of time aside to say, like, I'm going to spend time checking out products and seeing whether or not they could be of value, and just try not to get suckered into the shiny things that look great, but actually in practicality don't really work.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't necessarily know, because it is shiny thing. That's a typical recruiter. You don't necessarily know what's going to cause you problems further down the line and what might help. Lysha, I'll bring everyone back on. Actually,
I'm not being contrary deliberately, but I think on behalf of recruiters that maybe have been doing it a very long time, who've had effective business development through picking up the phone and, you know, more traditional, you know, building relationships that way, and not least you through personal branding on LinkedIn. I don't use AI to do any outreach at all. So do you think that there's an argument that I will get left behind given my techniques work really well? I guess I'm asking this on behalf of recruiters who've always had the capability of building relationships through picking up the phone.
I actually partly agree with you, because I feel like one of the downfalls of AI, and once people actually start to understand the capabilities of it and how much personalization you can do with the right data, people are already skeptical enough. You know, we for the last like 10 years, we've all talked about personalization, but as soon as people think, oh, you could replicate your voice and send me a voice note through AI, you could create a video through AI, you could send a really hyper personalized message through LinkedIn through AI, then people are just going to ignore people even more so than they already do. So it's actually going to be the old school tactics that come back into place, and that's like recording someone a video or picking up the phone and speaking to them. But it's just about having the bit around collecting data is more so trying to prevent or save as much time for the recruiters to sit there and doing that kind of research, you know, like hiding behind a computer and going, well, I'm just trying to find out who I need to speak to in the first place. That should just all be automated, right, to save that effort, so you can spend more time doing the things that are more effective, such as picking up the phone. It's just about having the basics in place.
I just want to go yes to that. Let's get rid of all the boring stuff that we're no good at. Automate all of that anyway, and give us time to have conversations with people, and whether that's picking up the phone or sending an initial personalized video in start. Hands up as well when I'm wrong. Always say I'm wrong. So it wasn't 153 years, it was 131. Not far off, but still.
I was still way off with my 75 years. I'm very sorry.
I think it was initially, and it's got worse, but we moved the gap 0.2% last year, so that's why it's going to take that long to catch up. It's like, anyway, brilliant discussion. That's our time. It goes quite quickly, doesn't it? So thank you so much for that information. I'm going to be using Opus Clip to stick this in, see what clips it comes up with. So I'll be sharing that with everyone as well. Thank you to my 3 new guests. I believe that takes us to 130 different coaches that have been on Ask the Coach now, which is amazing that you give your time to share your knowledge and to help the industry. So thank you so much to my guests, Lysha Holmes, Cybor and Alex Bennison. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I'm off to see Pink tomorrow. Hence, I thought I'd go with
a clue.
Can't wait. And I've got an old client that I caught up with yesterday that I haven't spoken to for ages, so my CRM is rubbish that I've been doing on that, that are opening a new office in London this evening and doing a launch. So I only spoke to her yesterday, and I'm off to that now. Well, this afternoon.
Oh, lovely.
So, it's all good. It's all good.
Thanks
it's all
for
happening.
having me.
People are getting
Been
positive.
great.
Let's do it. Let's get positive again. Thanks, Danielle. Lovely to have you there. Thanks, Drews, as well. I did have Qasim's comment there as well over on. I'd put it in there and I've lost it again now. But let's read it out then, just to finish that off. That Qasim was saying, yeah, he loves the idea that the hybrid is great, working in the office and remotely, perfectly get that balance. So yeah, let's get more strategic in the way that we do that to get everyone the best from it as well. Wonderful. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.
See you guys.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.